Okay, greetings, compadres. So, as you know, I am a big fan of the 20 Books to 50K conference. And as you know, I went in November and I met Datta Groover. And let me tell you, we had such a good time in the nonfiction aisle where we all were selling our books and getting to know each other. We had, I think, the best aisle. I mean, they were all wonderful. But here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of launch into his bio because it's so incredible that you will be blown away. And then I'm going to tell you just how magnetic Datta was when I first met him and why I was like, oh my goodness, we've got to have him on, just because he's got such a wealth of knowledge, but also because he's got character. So, okay. Datta's goal is to write fiction that makes a difference in the lives of others, exploring themes like relationships, love, and purpose in life. His second novel, The Reluctant Visionary, is that not a wonderful title? Was released in early January 2023 and has already received overwhelmingly positive reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly's Booklife. Okay. His first novel, Different. And if you are listening and not watching, I'm currently holding up a copy that I got from Datta himself in person in November at the conference. Thank you. So exciting. And it won 12 literary awards, and it's an Amazon #1 bestseller. Datta and his wife, Rachel Jane, live in the foothills of the Colorado Rockies with their corgi. Is it Maya?
It's Maya, yeah.
Maya, with lots of other critters around them, wild critters. And I mean, look at all these things. Datta has got, um, the American Fiction Awards, General First Fiction Place winner, American Book, Best Book Awards, Visionary. Yep, he's got like a list. Ben Franklin Awards, Silver Medal winner, Eric Hoffer Awards, Grand Prize shortlist. I'm exhausted reading all these almost. The ELIT Awards, First Horizon Book Award. I mean, this is unbelievable. And so we're among greatness, suffice it to say. But what struck me about Datta, which is what I referred to a second ago, was, so we met in this aisle of the nonfiction writer space at this conference, and hashtag, which is, I mean, it's kind of like the cool kids section, if I might be so bold, kind of like the Groupon
So right.
section at a
So
concert,
right.
right? So he said that he liked the cover of my book, Eternally Expecting. And that might have seemed like not a big deal to you, Datta, but to me, here I am. I'm this little fish in this big ocean of these incredible authors and publishers and all these talented folks. And it really gave me that sense of connection. And I cannot tell you how much that meant to me. It just was a massive encouragement. And I appreciated it so much. So thank you for that. And after that massively long intro, I welcome Datta Groover. So happy
Thank
you're
you.
here. Yeah.
I'm so happy to be here. And just a couple of corrections, if I may.
Oh, please do.
I did not like your book cover.
Oh,
I loved your book cover.
oh.
And when I came over to talk to you about it, you said, "Oh, thank you so much. I designed that myself." And I'm like, "Get out of here," because so I work with a lot of authors and I see a lot of do-it-yourself covers. And I would say 99% are just not really good enough. I mean, and they're
Yeah.
okay, they're a cover, but they don't really sell the book. They don't show you what's going on. But your cover was and I think I used the genius word. I'm pretty sure I used the genius word. And I'm not saying this to flatter you because it's your show and you could always just mute me at any moment. But no, I really mean it. I just loved it.
That is overwhelmingly kind. Thank you so much.
It's true. It's true.
Oh, So sweet. Well, here's the deal. I have a tendency to jump in and start like talking about books or something off the top. Let me just turn the floor over to you. And what I'd love to do is just hear about your background, however much you would like to tell us, or as little as you would like to share.
Absolutely. I'd be very happy to do that. And you just have to rein me in. It's like, okay, Dada, it's enough. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We got to move on to other things. Just
No, it's
kidding.
great.
But uh oh, and one thing too. So I think so I wrote that intro about my specs some time ago, and I was releasing the Reluctant Visionary in
Woo-hoo-hoo.
January. But then I got an agent, a very interested agent. I won't name her, but she's like one of the top agents in the world who's like represents some mega million copy selling authors right now. And we're very, very close. So we're having a conversation this week. We've had correspondence for the last couple of months. It's a slow process, folks. If you've ever done the whole traditional publishing route,
Mm.
um, uh, different was we self-published, basically our own publishing company. We did it, but it looks like Reluctant Visionary is going to be traditionally published. So that's it. Oh, and one other little addition, in addition to Maya, since also then, we now have Sophie, a little Rottweiler puppy.
Oh, that's the best. Oh my goodness. I bet
Gotta
you're
have
so
you got to
thrilled.
have a puppy around. I tell you, it's just, although, honestly, they're a lot of work. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, so true. And PS sidebar, I'm a huge corgi fan. Grew up with a corgi.
Oh,
Big fan.
really?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I gotta send you some videos. Or if you go on my Facebook page, you can see some great videos of Maya and Sophie. But Maya, our corgi, she's a midget corgi. And that
Oh,
wasn't intentional. It was like, we got her through a friend and brought her to us, and she never grew past, she's under 20 pounds. So
so cute.
so cute, incredibly cute.
The
So I'm
best.
also a huge corgi fan. So anyway, yeah, my background, I started playing music professionally when I was a teenager. I grew up in a very, very music oriented high school outside Washington, D.C. And I started playing professionally, and I was playing pretty regularly when I was 15. And I really got into a lot of things that weren't good for me. Like, I was doing heavy intoxication. I was putting away a case of beer every weekend, and if I was at a gig and they had champagne, oh man, it's like, I don't know how I could ever play right, but I did. And I played, and I was convinced, okay, this is going to be the life I'm going to lead. Here it is. I'm going to be a professional musician. And then I was 19. We had just played this gig in New York City, just drove, because Washington, New York's very close. I drove up to New York, did this gig, and I met Dizzy Gillespie. And if you don't know who Dizzy
Oh
Gillespie
wow.
is, he is a musician's musician. He's like one of the best musicians of all time, in my opinion, right? That's just an opinion thing. And he was, and I just want to say I adore him. He gave me some great advice. I think he's a wonderful person. He's passed away many years ago, but he was so intoxicated he couldn't stand up.
Mm.
And I had this aha moment, like, oh, you know what? This could be me in a few years or a decade or whatever. It's like, you know what? I don't know if I really want to keep going the way I'm going. So at that point in my life, I just made a major shift. I became much more spiritually focused, and centered my life around God. That's just what I did. I hope it's okay if I say that
Yeah,
on
of
the show.
course.
Um, and that, that made all the difference. I stopped everything. I stopped smoking marijuana and cigarettes, and I stopped drinking. And yeah, that was a huge change for me. So then I decided I was going to become an engineer, right? So well, and through my teenage years, I had always wanted to be an engineer as a sideline, right, as a backup to music. And then I decided to switch. I'm going to always play music because I love music so much. And I was also writing at that time, not in a serious professional way, but I did, contribute to some magazines and publications and stuff. So this would always be part of my life. And it's like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And I went to engineering school and I dropped out. I dropped out after I'd skipped 2 semesters. So I took advanced placement. I skipped the whole first semester. I took advanced placement again, skipped another semester. And then I just realized that, you know what? I've never really figured out what I want out of life, what I want to do with my life. So I think I should do that first before finish investing all this money and time in college. And I went back to the dean and I said, you know what, I'm going to drop out. And he was like, no, 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 no. You're the only person who's ever skipped 2 semesters. You can't drop out. And I said, yeah, I'm actually going to do that. And I did. And then I just started, I started traveling and I just started a quest for, what is my life meant for? What am I meant to do? I kept writing. I was playing music, not as seriously as I was in my teenage years in terms of professional performance, but I was doing a lot of that, and I just loved it. I just loved it. And then I reverse qualified as an engineer. So that's a whole long story I'm not going to get into, but I became a master electrician, and certified engineer, and also electronics technician. So
Wow.
I had these skills which could take me all over the world, and I've done hydroelectrics in Spain. I've done wind generation in Argentina. I've done all kinds of aqueduct controls in Italy, and all these different things in all these different places, which were very cool. And my other love is photography, like that picture there on the wall behind me. That's a picture I took in Australia over the Great Ocean Road, and I did photography for a while. So I just want to say something before we get too far, is that I am an ADD person.
Mm.
I'm an ADD person, and if I could trade that, if I could give that up, I would never do it.
Mhm.
So it has its limitations, but it also, I love it. Right, I love it, and I think with ADD, ADHD, it's really a matter of management, how you manage it. So
Yeah.
with all these different things I've done, so what I do is I put my throttle all the way forward. Whatever I'm doing, I put it all the way forward, like 100%. My afterburners are on. I'm going to go for it until, if I decide, okay, this is not working for me, this is not what I really want to do, I'm going to stop. So with engineering, again, I was doing all these projects all over the world. And then all of a sudden, it was really almost one day the next, I came to the point where I realized, you know what? I love the creativity of this, and I really love helping people. I love making a difference, but I don't think I'm making enough. I've done major projects in India and Taiwan and all these amazing exotic places. But I thought, what if I was writing? What if I was writing? I can reach so many more people. So I started screenwriting. I was writing screenplays. I sold one Hollywood screenplay, and then I realized, oh, you know what? I really hate this industry. I'm
Mm.
not, and I know I've had friends that are screenwriters that love it, but I'm not one of them. It's like, I hate this. I'm not doing it. I'm done. And I just want to write books. I want to write books that will really, like you said in the intro, that make a difference in people's lives. So that was the big shift, and I've been doing that for the longest time in my life that I've been doing anything, is writing. Right? Well, no, actually, music. I started music even before, but in terms of doing it as a profession, and I absolutely love it. And I can tell you, like, and I've literally had people come up to me on the street and said, "Hey, your book changed my life." And this happened to me once. This was in Ashland, Oregon. I'll never forget it. And this woman came up to me, "Your book changed my life," and I started crying.
Yeah.
I started crying because I believe we're all wired like that. We're all wired to make a difference in people's lives. And I can say for sure that's how I'm wired.
Hmm.
So that made such a tremendous difference for me, when I was able to see how that would, make that actual difference. And then there's an industry to writing your books, which is like, I didn't know before I got into it. It's like, there's certain things you need to do right. There's certain things, there's genre issues you have to address, especially with fiction. my wife and I have written, mainly it was her and I, with my support, some nonfiction books that have been extremely good sellers. But and I hesitate to use the word bestseller because it seems like everybody says their book is a bestseller when it
Mm.
may not be. Um, so we've done really well with that. And here's the funny thing. So we teach writing. I think I mentioned that to you before. And in fact, if you go to yourbookidea.com, it's a great way to get started if you want an idea for starting a book. And my wife actually does that series of videos. It's a free process, and I think you love it. But anyway, I so what one of the things we do is we have these writing workshops where people don't know what they're going to write about. It could be fiction, nonfiction. Sit down, and in 4 days, they write the whole first draft of their book.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I went to somebody else's to start, just to really get the ideas like, wow, this is something I want to do, but let me see how other people do it. So I went to this other writing workshop and I sat down and I thought I was going to write nonfiction, because I've trained, and this is the other thing. It's like, okay, I've confessed my ADD. So I've done a lot of things. I train speakers. My wife and I still train speakers. I've trained some of the top speakers in the world. I've been really blessed to have that. And I also, for the same reason, because it can really help somebody do their thing, right? Be their highest and best self. So speaker training is awesome. So I thought I was going to write a book about speaking or about facilitating, right? I've taught
Yep.
people how to facilitate their workshops. And I love doing that, honestly. So I'm going to write a book about it. But what came through was fiction.
Mm.
And my very first book that I had accepted by a publisher, I want to say, it was in early 90s, right? It was my first book that was accepted was fiction. And then the publisher in the middle of my contract decided, oh, you know what? We're going to switch to all nonfiction,
Mm.
but we're going to give you all your rights back. Like that was some generous thing. Anyway, and I won't even mention the publisher. See, this is me biting my tongue. Anyway, so, and then I was thinking nonfiction would be the way, but this fiction started coming through me, and I love writing fiction. I love it. So that's where I am. This is my second book, which is, again, we're in negotiation. Hopefully in a few days I'll have a contract. It looks that way. I don't know. And then my third book is called The Boy Who Started Fires.
Ah,
And it's about a teenage arsonist who becomes
nice.
a firefighter.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's the nutshell version, although that was a pretty big nutshell. It was more like
No,
a Joker nutshell.
I love it. And of course, the first thing I need to ask you is you mentioned that you went to a high school that was kind of a musical arts, high school. I realized it wasn't in New York, it was outside of DC, but was it Fame? Did you go to Fame High?
Oh, no. But thank you so much for asking. No, it was Langley High School, right next to the CIA in Langley.
Oh,
And
wow, okay.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't actually a music and arts high school. It was really, it's DC area, congressmen's, judges, federal judges'
Oh,
kids, politicians' kids were all there. But we had an incredible band director
so
who was a professional musician himself, and he pushed us, and we performed. Like, we go to these, first of all, we won first place in the United States in the high school jazz band contests, and we'd go to college music festivals, and I say this with all humility, that our high school band would sound better than all the college bands that were there.
I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
bet.
know.
Oh my goodness. Okay, and then I love that you have ADD. I love that. And I loved that you have a positive outlook on it. So many times, because of course I have ADHD, and so many times it's, oh, well, how have you learned to deal with this and all this? And I love that you seem to have taken those positives about it and let those fuel your life and your career. And that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know, how did you come to have that reframing?
Great question. And, I think you probably know better than anybody on the planet that you will learn more through parenting than you will any other way.
Yeah.
you know and so I have two wonderful sons who have ADHD,
Mm,
and then later we added a foster son to the mix,
mhm.
which was also awesome. Who he does not have ADD, but my two biological kids do, so we had quite a mix. And learning how to help them deal with life and experience what they're going through and how to really use it as an asset, I think helped me more than anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it took me a long time. I can't say what age I was when I really started to get that I had this ADD thing going on, but once I really not only acknowledged it but embraced it, it just makes all the difference. Now, and certain things, like I know, like if I'm talking to somebody, if I like say, 20 books to 50K, Amy, if I was having the conversation with you and you were just rattling on about some operation you're gonna have, I'd say, you know what? I gotta get back to my table.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. And no, and I've offended people, but I won't sit there and listen to somebody rattle on when I don't care what they're saying. Because it's like torture for an ADD or an ADHD person to do that.
It's
And I don't
so
wanna torture
true.
them.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. And I mean, I love also along those lines, because I feel like, and this may just be the people that I've spoken to recently, I feel like so many of us who have had backgrounds with either some level of alcohol abuse or full-blown addiction, so many of us have ADHD. There seems to be some kind of, I'm not a scientist, right? But it seems to be, experientially speaking anyway, that everybody kind of has a connection to some level of that ADHD. I don't know if that's true, but it's just something I've noticed recently.
Yeah,
And I love that. So who knows if that's correct or not, but I love that you, during that whole Dizzy Gillespie thing, that you realized that this potentially could keep you from the rest of your life and your dream.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. I just think that's just such a great, that's a watershed moment. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, I
gift.
think so. And I think that's a great point about the connection between ADD and ADHD and addiction. And the real question is what comes first, the cart or the horse? Right?
Mm,
Because like, do people with ADD or ADHD go into that addiction to get away from that or to minimize the effects I don't know.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a scientist either.
Yeah. So interesting. Um, I love that you also said, I just wanted to comment on this. We're all wired to make a difference in people's lives. I mean, because for me, I found that in my addiction, what I was looking for was connection. I was
Mhm.
looking for connection with other people, but I didn't know it at the time. So I was using the bottle to escape and to try and fill that hole in my soul, fill that void. And so, really, now being sober for 12 years, I really see how, I
Congratulations, by the way.
oh, thanks. I really see how I've turned into this almost like junkie for connecting with other people. And fundamentally, I think that there is something inside all of us that really, it's that mirroring that we see in somebody else, that we, feel this kind of spiritual connection to at some level. And I think that's pretty incredible that, you realized that, and that's the direction that your life started taking then, and you followed that path of, yeah, no, I need to make a difference in people's lives. And then that's when you get stopped on the street in Ashland, right? Because you have those, you're seeing things through those new lenses.
Right. Yeah. Thank
Incredible.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, tell me about publishing, if you wouldn't mind. And
Absolutely.
yeah, go for it. I mean,
Oh,
specifically, if I was going to ask a question, I guess, it would be, how do you guide new authors as to what to do with their book?
yeah, great question. So first of all, everything has changed, right? If you haven't noticed that, you need to notice that in the publishing world, things are radically different, like in so many ways, and they're changing pretty quickly. Like the rate of change has gone way up. So yes, and you can still publish traditionally, but the self-publishing now is so much easier than it used to be. And there's an upside and a downside to that. The upside is like, oh, you can put your book out. You can go on to Amazon KDP or through other sources and just put your book out without too much. You can upload a Microsoft Word document to
Mm,
Amazon KDP and publish your book, get a printed book out of that, right? You need a cover, you need, other, ISBN, all kinds of things like that, which you can also get from Amazon.
mhm.
But the downside of that is there's so much garbage getting published. And that, I know that sounds very judgmental, right? There's so much garbage out there. It's like, it's amazing how many books I see that are not good.
Mm.
And that includes books I see from traditional publishing channel. Like, so I will buy, let me think now before I look like a complete idiot. Well, maybe it's too late for that. But I will buy 100 books a year, and I'll finish half of them. And not because of my ADD, is because, oh, this book is not selling me.
Mm,
And I only try to get books that are well written.
mhm,
I want books that are well written. When I say well written, I don't mean like for example, a literary novel, right? They're well written, but mostly they're not going to grab me.
mhm,
All the Light We Cannot See is an example of a
mhm.
literary novel that really grabbed me, right? I don't know if you've read that one by
Yep.
Anthony Doerr. Yeah, amazing book. But most literary novels, they won't grab me, but they're well written. For me, well written means it's going to really grab a hold of my soul and shake it a little bit.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
that's what I really want. I want books that will enlighten me. And I also read for skill, for increasing my own skill. It's like, okay, what is this author done here with this book? Um, like I just read Giraffes Westward. Have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
It's really good. I was surprised. And the way that she writes that book, it's based on a true story and it's totally fictionalized, but it's really good. And you get a lot of insight into, relationships and character and paths and life and all these kind of things. Character, all these different things. So I read for, again, so that's what I say I want to put in my books. So I read others' books to figure that out. But my original point was I don't finish them all just because it's like, oh, this is so formulaic. They're thinking, oh, here's what people want. I'm going to do A and B and C. It's like, okay, no, I've had enough of that.
Okay, I love what you just said, because I think that for me, you know, one thing that I always struggle with is the whole right for self or right to market. And I mean, like, that just is like a thing, right? And I write for self personally because I know that I need my soul to bleed, like I need to get in touch with that, inner drive and core message. But I think it's not an either or. I think it's a both and. So I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I am totally with you on that, Amy. I'm totally with you on that. And I agree. And here's the thing. So music is the same, right?
Mm.
And by the way, these don't just hang on my wall. I play them every day. I'm just saying that.
Oh.
So music is the same. So, and I've known musicians that were fantastic. They just played what they wanted to play and without consideration of what people wanted to hear.
Mm,
And um it's never been my strategy.
mm,
It's like always been to like, what can I play that I love that I know other people are also going to love? I want to play music that it'll stir my soul, and then I think it's going to stir others.
mhm,
It's a lot of times what happens is when people really get into their heads with music or with writing, that's where it doesn't necessarily connect, right? So,
Mhm.
and like you mentioned, so a lot of these books that I mentioned that I didn't finish, they are um, very much written from the headspace, right? Very much intellectual. Okay, this is going to work, and here's my formula, and this is what people will like, and they'll buy it, and they may buy it. You know what? I don't care. Would I like to sell, be a million copy best-selling author? Sure. Yes. Would I
Yeah.
like to make a fortune for my books? Yes. But that's secondary to writing books that will change people's lives. I'd rather change one person's life, seriously change that person's life, than make $1 million.
Yeah.
And that may be crazy, but you know what? That's me. That's who I am. And I keep that in mind when I'm writing. Like, I want the book to stir me,
Hmm.
and I believe if it stirs me, it's also going to stir other people. So yeah, I write what I like. So here's an issue. So this is for all writers to know. My books don't fit cleanly into one genre.
Mm.
And that's mostly what agents want. If you're
Sure.
self-publishing, it does not matter as much. Like, some people, they want to read science fiction, they want to read fantasy, romance, action, adventure, thriller, whatever those genres, they read are, and they might read one, two, three, four of them, but like they might not say, yeah, I don't read romance. Now I'll read anything because I want to learn from all genres, but the genre thing has become a deal. So, and I've been told, and by the way, the one screenplay I sold was science fiction, and
Interesting.
I still think the story is awesome. And people have said, "Oh, well, just write science fiction." And you know what? I ultimately, eventually will. But right now, I want to write what's closest to my soul.
Yeah.
And do I believe it's going to make a difference? I got a fantastic review from Kirkus Reviews for Reluctant Visionary, like you mentioned. It's like, oh, I'm very happy about that. Very
Yeah.
happy. And I know people will read it, and I feel that my books will be life changing. And I'm going to do the best I can with the marketing and the publishing, but who knows?
Yeah. That's where turning it over is just, kind of got to get used to that, right? Like, okay, I'm not ultimately in charge of that outcome and we do our best, but yeah.
And that's a 12 step, isn't it? That's one
Yeah.
of the steps. It's
Mhm.
it's actually it's a really, really important one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so tell me, like, if I had maybe an outline of a book, tell me what your class or coaching session is like. If I were a writer who was looking to get some assistance with that, do you start them off on a singleton coaching? Do you put them in a class? What's kind of the process of how you take them through?
Well, it's funny you mentioned, and I swear to everybody, we did not plan this, right? But we
Right.
are starting very soon. We're doing we're calling an outlining your book challenge.
Nice.
Like, really, how to take your outline, how to plug it in, how to create the outline, how to get direction. And this is also a free course.
Love that.
So I think the best way, like, I came here, say, I know your bookidea.com is one of the things. And if you write support at dattagroover.com, then we will let you know how to get into this outlining your book challenge. It's a free, like I said, it's a free thing, and it goes on. It's every day for 5 days, not all day. It's a short, I think it's an hour every day. And I don't have the times and everything right in front of me.
Love it. I love it. Okay.
So that was very serendipitous. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, of
I'll pay you
course.
later. No. Oh, actually,
Right.
no, it's free. Never mind. Forget it.
Oh, shoot. Um, okay, so tell me about your thoughts on the brick and mortar bookstores and getting books in there and, having books that are print on demand. And I know you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so brick and mortar, and it's changed, right? So there's Barnes and Noble, but where's B. Dalton? Where are all the others?
Ooh, yeah, Walden
Like,
Books.
Walden Books, yeah, and they were such a big presence before, but so that's changed tremendously. So the great thing with Barnes and Noble is they will take independently published books. you have to do a whole application process, and there's independent bookstores, right? So Barnes and Noble is the huge chain right now. The last, I think, existing chain of bookstores, right? They're the last ones, aren't they? Or
I
am
think so.
I mixed
I
up?
think
Yeah. And but they're independent ones. So what I've done is I go in with my books, and I learned this when I was a photographer. So when I was doing photography professionally as a sideline, I I know. So I would go into a tourist shop, right? This is when I lived in Spain. So I lived in Spain for a long time. I go into a tourist shop with a stack of photos, and I set them down, and they go, "Oh, nice. My photos were nice." I'm just saying. Um, and and I'd say, "Well, here's the deal. If you like these, offer them." And they were like, castles and ruins and really, iconic places in Spain that people are going to go into tourist shops to buy. And I'd say, look, just take these on a consignment. There's 100 photos there. I'll come back and you pay me, $5 for every photo you sold, or whatever I was selling it for. It's probably dirt cheap like that. And it worked great, right? So same thing with the bookstore. I go in, and it's like, here, it's like sell, and I've given books away to bookstores.
Mhm.
So here's 3 books, sell them, and then I'll talk to you in a week. So then there's no risk on their part. So you make it a no-brainer for them. But it's really good to go in and talk to people. And it's important too, Amy, to know who is the person who makes the decisions.
Right.
In most businesses, it's like that. But when you go to a bookstore, you don't want to just like say, you don't want to talk to the salesperson who might be totally into your book and loves it. And yeah, we can do that. And then they'll talk to the owner and they'll say, oh, yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to have the same enthusiasm you will. So, you want to say, hey, who can I talk to about this book? I'm a local author, especially that really works well when you tell them you're local.
Yeah. I love that so much. The power of, again, coming back to human connection, right? And I think that that was a big deal. Like for me personally, going to 20 books for the first time, it was like, a sea of introverts, which I hadn't really realized before I got there. And,
I
there's
love
some
that,
of
a
us,
sea of introverts. Yeah.
right? I mean, there's some of us who are introverted, but we have an extroverted kind of personality or something that looks like an extroverted personality. So, that's all. Yeah,
Like
exactly.
me.
Yeah. And so that's interesting too. But that has been one of the hardest parts of self-publishing for me, is putting myself out there. And the whole concept of the live events, it's like I know it works, and I'm not, it's like I'm afraid of people until I talk to them, and then I'm totally fine. I don't
Right.
know why that is, but
It is kind of funny, isn't it?
yeah, it's a little bit weird. But yeah, I love that. And I wonder too, I mean, what do you think about the whole idea of still carrying around? I never see anybody carrying around a paperback anymore. Everybody's reading on their Kindles and all that. Um, but here's the thing is, I can't write notes and highlight. Yeah, sure, you can use those little tools that, you know, Apple Books or whoever has in their EPUB layouts, but I don't know. There's something, I still like a paperback. I don't know.
Well, yes, you do, and a lot of other people do. So in 2010, everyone was saying there won't be any paperback books in 5 years.
Mm,
They were saying that. It's like, yeah, paperbacks are going away, hardcover, forget it, it ain't going to happen. And and there was a curve, like ebooks were going way up and way up, and here's where paperbacks, and then they kind of met, and now they're like this.
mm.
Sometimes one's more than another, but like we sell almost the same number of hard, printed books as we do ebooks.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think they're ever going away, because just for the reasons you mentioned, people want to hold that book in their hand. People want to have that, that physical book. And, the downside of that is it's so hard to find good printers. Yeah, Amazon can do, print on demand, but like, we have Amazon Advantage and they won't take Amazon printed books in Amazon Advantage. So we have to print them outside, ship them to Amazon, which is crazy. But Amazon, they're like, no, this is our rule and this is how we're going to do it. But anyway, so finding good printers is really hard these days. That's a
Right.
challenge, but you can still do it. And if you're just like going through KDP, the print on demand is, I think it's the best way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, because we've got Amazon Advantage, which is now you can't get it. They don't give out new. We're grandfathered in, and it's really good. It is an advantage, but we have to ship the books in.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So print books will never, I don't think they'll ever completely go away. That's just my prediction.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause right now the trend since 2010 is, it's kind of leveled off. That ratio is leveled off.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I always think back to the Tower Records guy, who was like, oh, these records are never going out, we're
Yeah.
always gonna, and then, sadly, but I think that that's such a personal challenge for us as authors, writers, publishers, is to stay true to what we love and also kind of
Yeah.
pepper in some of the new things and be open to that. I find that
Exactly.
tough anyway. But yeah, I love it. And circling back really quick to before we kind of start to wrap up, but I wanted to hear about a little bit about how you got comfortable writing about family, about spirituality, about these different things that sometimes are hard. I think people like you and me, it seems like it's not, it's just kind of who we are. It comes out of us. But other people have a tough time, I think, sometimes writing about those subjects. So I'm just wondering, was it easy for you and for the people who it's difficult for, like, let's say they're writing a memoir or, how do you help them to pull that out of themselves?
That's a really good question. And I liken that a lot to speaking, right?
Mhm.
So the best speakers allow themselves to be seen,
Yeah.
and people say vulnerability. Like somebody might say a sad story and they call it vulnerability and it may not be.
Mm,
So vulnerability is when you're going to let yourself be seen with all your flaws.
it's
And
good.
if you let yourself be seen, people will trust you more and they will like you more. And some people will judge you. And I think it's the same with writing.
Mhm,
So my books trigger some people,
mm,
and I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. Um, I'm good. I would much rather have, 7 5-star reviews and 2 1-star reviews than all 4-star reviews or all 3-star reviews.
mm,
I would rather have people say this book is life changing, and then 17 people hate it,
mm.
and completely smash it. And is it hard to get those negative reviews? It is. I don't like it at all. It makes me very uncomfortable. And my mind will go like, oh, it was a bad review. Um, and then I remember it, but you got 10 times more extremely positive reviews. And
Mhm,
that's the kind of writing I want to do. And I believe, again, speaking or writing, if you are vulnerable, if you show people who you are, your true self,
mhm.
some people won't like it. And
Yeah.
that, I think, is the best advice for people writing a memoir, especially because memoirs are very popular. Um, let yourself be seen. Let yourself be seen. Not that you just dump on the page and like it's all this and that. It's like you want to be selective about how you share what you share.
Mhm.
But there was a time when I would not say about my ADD. I would not mention that. It's like, oh, I'm a little embarrassed about it, and people are going to judge me. People will judge me for that,
Mhm,
and I'm okay with it now.
mhm.
It's like if somebody says, "Oh, this guy was and he was all over the place and this and that," and he even said he was ADD. It's like, okay, well, it's going to hurt my feelings, and I'm going to get over it, and I don't care as much as I care about making a difference.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's a certain, again, like with the writing, like with the genres, like, yeah, my books don't go cleanly into a certain genre, and I'm okay with that.
I love that because that is that whole concept, right, of being true to self, right? And not abandoning that whole idea of being something that, God created and gave this gift to you of this writing and this ability to just open your life and your heart. And I love that because I think sometimes we want to make sense of all this. We want to, it would be nice to put books like yours in one specific tiny, like nice little packaged bow wrapped on it category. And yet, if that were to happen, then it's like, but there are all these other themes, that people would miss potentially if you
Exactly.
had to just put it on one shelf. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's such a great concept that, we have the freedom to do that and
Yeah.
to just pack as many themes in as we want. And as long as it's cohesive and makes sense and flows, why wouldn't we do that? Uh,
I think so. I think so. And and another part of that equation, I think, Amy, is that, you know, as humans, we like to be expressive. We
yeah.
like to be expressive. So, it's like part of it is like, okay, this is what, how I want to be. I want to make a difference in people's lives, or I want to entertain, or, and neither is right or wrong, right? Or I want to do both. And then, just to express, I think is also a natural
Yeah.
want of the human
Yeah.
psyche.
Well,
So and that's one of the great things about writing is you can express, and especially if you do it your way. Like a lot of these books I read that I didn't finish, right? It's like, I'm not even feeling the author there. I'm feeling a formula. And I'm
right?
done.
Or like, I took a here's the book, right? I took a trip to the Bahamas and nothing happened. And my life is wonderful and always has been, and the end. Like, who wants to read that?
Who even
I mean,
believes that?
this is nothing. There's nothing there, and so yeah, the power of vulnerability and being a relatable person and having that shine
Yeah.
through in
Oh,
your
can
writing.
I just tell you something real quick?
Of
And I know
course.
we're getting close to time, but when I shared my book, actually, this was Reluctant Visionary with my sons, and and also with other family people, and they're also beta readers for me. And my son came back and said, I saw a lot of you in that, Dad. I'm
Mm,
like, uh-oh, I hope it was the protagonist, not the antagonist. But actually, I'm in all of it, right? I
yeah.
put myself in the characters of my books, and and I've had several people since. My son was the first one that did it, but then other people have said that to me. It's like, yeah, I see parts of you in those characters, and like, and part of me is like, gulp, it's
Yeah.
like, yikes. But I think it's great. I think it's great. And I think the best writing means you put yourself into it, whether it's prescriptive nonfiction, whether it's memoir, whether it's fiction,
Yeah.
whatever. I think it's really important. And that expression piece, again, I think it fulfills a need, a human psyche need, that we really need to express ourselves.
100%. Could not agree more. And I just have to ask one final thing because this whole conversation leaves me just like, okay, I want more of this. I want more of these kind of books in my life. Like I read memoir all the time. I read, all kinds of people's experiences that are sometimes it's fictional, but it's got some peppered in there of, real life experience.
Oh yeah.
And I'm wondering, I mean, what is next for you?
So what is next for me? And this was some advice I got from a best-selling author, and Jonathan Mayberry. I don't know if you've heard of him. Uh,
No.
yeah, he's a fantasy, and he does horror, which I just like don't do. It's like I did
Yeah.
say I did all genres before. Well, I was lying. I don't do horror. I just like, yeah, I don't need that. Anyway, but yeah, so and he's like a million copy selling author, right? So he told me, he said, write nonfiction. So I want to write some nonfiction. He said it's going to help your fiction if you're writing parallel. You're putting out
Ah,
nonfiction with fiction. So I need to decide what that is, and that's part of my thing. That's part of what I'm going to do.
That's so exciting. Datta Groover, I am so blessed to know you. Like, this has been a gem and a joy. I have been totally honored to have you on today.
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you
honored
so
to
much
be
for your
here.
time. Yay. Thank you. Right back at you, mutual. Um, I am excited to hopefully, am I going to see you at the conference again?
At 20 books?
Yeah,
Probably.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of planning out, like, I'm thinking about going to Writer's Digest in New York City. I don't know yet.
Oh, yeah.
I got so
Okay.
much going on with the building, the
You
conversion of the.
got so much going on. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I see you, fantastic. But if I don't, let me tell you something, like the echoes of things that you have said today will reverberate in my mind throughout the year. And I just
Oh,
thank you for
nice.
sharing all of this.
Wow, well, thank you. I
Yeah,
feel really good about that. And
of
and I
course.
and you are a like-minded soul, and I knew that the first time I saw you across the aisle in 20 books.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so yourbookidea.com.
Yeah.
And where else can people find you?
DattaGroover.com,
Okay.
and that's with 2 T's and 2 O's.
So wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for being a light and thank you so much for your time today. And I wish you all the best and I'll chat soon.
Thank you, Amy. It's been a pleasure. It's great to see you again.
Thank you so much. And to listeners, I want to thank you so much. Be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Remember to take what you like and leave the rest behind.
Mm.